Hello and welcome to this Granny Hexagon Beginner's Crochet Tutorial. The tools we will be using: a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle with a large eye, a crochet hook size G 4.00 millimeter. I have 3 colors of yarn that I am using. My first one is Michael's Impeccable in the color Butterscotch. My second one, Vanna's Choice by Lions brand in the color Fern. And my last one is Red Heart Super Saver in the color White. Before beginning, I always like to have some yarn ready to work so that when I pull on the skein, see how it, that just happens. It helps keep my tension correct, and I can go ahead and have yarn readily available when I need it. As you can see, sometimes it comes out in a knot and you have to straighten it out. So if you pull out about 2 or 3 feet and set it in front of you, your tension will be correct and your stitches will look uniform. Another thing before we start, most projects start with a magic circle. We want to have at least an 8-inch tail before creating the magic circle or any part of weaving in. The reason being, your needle is about 3 inches long. You want to have enough yarn to weave it in and out and still have room for the needle to do its work. So let's begin our tutorial. To make a magic circle, take our yarn, go down about 8 inches, and at that place put it around your finger and pinch it with your thumb. Wrap the yarn around the other 2 fingers until you have an X in the center. Go underneath the one that goes toward your fingernails, and with the yarn behind, draw up a loop and twist it just a little. With that same yarn that you just drew up, pull up another loop and go through the loop that's on your hook, and that will start the beginning of our magic circle. If your tail has twisted over into your circle, go ahead and pull it out and we'll be ready to start. Before creating any stitches, we want to wrap the yarn on our hand so that we can have proper tension. There are many people who have various ways of doing it. I will show you the way I choose to do it. I'm going to have the yarn come up between my finger, my ring finger, and my little finger. I'm going to wrap it around and bring it across the top of my 3 fingers so that it comes between my pointing finger and my second finger. I'm going to wrap it back over and twist my hand back so that it is at a 45-degree angle to me. The section between the hook and my finger is the working area. So if I refer to this as my working yarn, it means that it's coming from my skein. When we first made our loop on the hook, we need to tighten it so that we do not have excessive yarns coming off of it. So grip it with your finger and your thumb on both sides, and then with your finger that has the working yarn, work it so that all 3 of them work together to tighten that first loop that we put on our magic circle. Now we're ready to begin. To build up so that we can create stitches, we need to perform chain stitching. To make a chain stitch, you can place your finger on your loop on the hook, take your hook, wrap it around, and as you notice, the hook will be aiming down. The reason why you want it to aim down is because you aim it up, it'll get locked on your loop on top. So take it, wrap it around, twist your hook so that it is aiming down, and go through that loop on your hook. That is one completed chain stitch. The loop on your hook is not complete. Let's make a second one. You'll also notice that I pinch my work with my thumb and my second finger. So to make our second chain, we're going to wrap it around, we're going to twist our hook so that it's aiming down and go through that loop on the hook. Mine looks like it's tight. It's not really tight, it's just that I'm going so slow to show you how to do this. So to do my third one, I will do like this, and you can see how easily it does go through. The height of the chain 3 will be the same height that we need to perform the stitches that are required for this particular pattern that we're going to do. Instead of doing our normal stitches, we're going to be doing what is called cluster stitches only on this row. That means most of our stitches will be halfway complete. So to make a cluster stitch, that it will be a double crochet, we're going to place our finger on the loop, we're going to wrap our hook around the working area, and then we're going to take the tip of our hook and go through the center of our circle. We're going to go back to the working area and pull up a loop. Go back to the working area, which is called also yarn over, and we're going to go through 2 loops that are on that hook, and we're going to stop right there. We have 2 loops in our hook. We're going to leave those there. Place your finger on the top of those 2 loops, and we're going to do this again. Yarn over in the working area, take the tip of the hook and go through the center of the circle, go back to the working area, draw up a loop, and go and yarn over through 2 loops. We have completed 2 not completed, my terminology is off a little right here. We have created 2 double crochets that are not totally complete. Okay, part of our cluster will make it so that it's less stitching up at the top. Now even though we have our chain 3, this is only to go up to the height that we need. This is not the beginning of our repeat. Our repeat will happen in just a second. So to complete this set of stitch of our 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull the yarn through all 3 of those loops, and we have now 1 double crochet cluster that has 3 of the double crochets we need. And now we're going to chain 1. We're going to start what is called a repeat in crochet. A repeat means that we will be doing the same thing over and over again as required per pattern design. This one that we just did here cannot be considered a repeat because it has the chain 3 to take us up to the new height. So this is why when you see a chain 3 next to your regular stitches, the chain 3 is pretend to be the same as the other ones. It's only to bring you to the height and width of the same stitch that you'll be using. So let's move on. Place your finger on top of the loop on the hook, wrap your yarn over in the working area, take your hook and go through the center, draw up your loop from that working area through the center of the circle back towards you. Yarn over in the working area, draw through 2 loops, and you have an uncompleted double crochet. This is for our stitch for the cluster. We now have 2 loops on our hook. Place your finger over the top of those, wrap the yarn over, go through the center of the hook of the circle, draw up your loop, yarn over, and through 2 loops that are on the hook. You'll now have 3 loops on the hook. We're going to do this one more time because we only have 2 of the uncompleted double crochets and we need 3. Place your finger on top of the loops on your hook, yarn over, take the hook through the center, bring back up a loop, yarn over through 2. We now have 4 loops on the hook because the 4th one is from the previous side at the end of that chain stitch, and this is okay. So yarn over, make sure that the hook is aiming down, and pull through all 4 of those loops, and then chain 1, yarn over and through that 1 loop on the hook. We have now completed 1 double crochet cluster that has the 3 double crochets needed for what we want in this pattern. Let's move on to our second one. We're going to do the exact same thing that we just did, so we're going to repeat our second time. Place your finger on our loop, yarn over, take the hook, go through the center of your magic circle, pull up a loop, yarn over through the 2 loops that are on the hook. Place your finger on the second loop, yarn over, place your hook into the center of the circle, pull back, draw up a loop, yarn over through 2 loops on the hook. You now have 3 loops on your hook. We're going to do this one more time. Place your finger on top of that loop on your hook, yarn over, go through the center of the circle, come back with a loop drawn up, yarn over and through 2. We now have 4 loops on our hook, and we're going to draw through all 4 of them and tighten it up. Take your finger and your hook and work them together to tighten the loop up. Then chain 1. We now have a total of 3 double crochet clusters, and we need 3 more. This next one, our 4th one, I'm not going to explain it as much. I'm going to see if you can do it. I'm just going to give a little instruction. So with your finger on your loop, on your hook, we're going to yarn over, we're going to pull up a loop, we're going to go through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, your hook through the center, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, hook through the center, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2 loops on the hook. We now have 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, make sure your hook's pointing down, and go through all 4 loops on the hook and snug it up and chain 1. How did you do? Okay, I'm sure you did fine. If I went a little too fast for you, I'm sorry. But we will get this. We got 2 more of these to do. Okay, so let's see. I'm not going to go fast. But let's go ahead and do this again. Yarn over through the center, draw up a loop through the 2 loops on the hook, yarn over through the center, draw up a loop, and through the 2 on the hook again. And what's the last one we do? That's right, we do the same thing. Pull through 2. We now have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 4, snug it up, and chain 1. Okay, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochet clusters. I'm going to let you do this one by yourself, so I'm not going to explain it to you, and I'll see you in just a second. So, how did you do? I'm sure you did fine. Okay, at the end, we're not going to go ahead and chain 1 because we're going to go up. So if you did chain 1, carefully take that chain 1 out and place it so that you just have your loop with your 4 loops open. Okay, now you can release your yarn from your hand. Take your finger and your thumb and hold those stitches, and we're going to take our tail and we're going to pull it. We're going to close this circle. Don't pull it so tight that you break your yarn. We're just pulling it tight to close our circle. Okay, we have a little opening right here, and so what we're going to do is sometimes you want to be at the location of where you stopped at for when you start to go up to your next row. So what we're going to do here is, instead of a chain stitch, we're going to do an actual stitch. Now, to count up our chains, we have our completed chains. Here's 1, 2, and the top one up here is 3. Go through the center of that chain, and when you look back, double check to make sure that you picked up 2 parts of that chain. Sometimes when you pick up just 1 loop of that chain, it can cause your stitch to stretch, and it can distort it, and we don't want to distort it. So yarn over and pull up a loop, and what we're going to do now is a stitch called single crochet. A single crochet does not require any wrap overs, yarn overs, or anything. It's just you pull up a loop, and then we're going to draw the yarn through both of those loops on the hook. And here we have our first row completed, ready to move on to the second. Moving on, let's go to our row 2. So in order to get the height we need for our stitch, we're going to place in our chain stitches. So we're going to chain 3, okay, yarn over and pull through the loop. There's 1, yarn over, 2, yarn over, and 3. Now we're going to be doing completed double crochets, so that way we can have the full stitch. At the beginning we did clusters, which only required the double crochet to be half completed done. So now we're going to do a different stitch. So to do a completed double crochet, we're going to go into this space. I want you to open it up. Now you'll notice that you will have that 1 loop here. You want to go through that as well. So you'll go underneath it. So right here, you can see how you go underneath it. Okay, so place your finger on your loop, wrap it around, and go right into that space. And you're going to draw up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over. You're going to go through the 2, And to complete our double crochet, yarn over and go through the second set of 2. We now have a completed double crochet, and notice that the chain 3 is at the same height as that double crochet. This chain 3 will pretend to be a double crochet because of the height and because of the width. It doesn't look the same, but it all fits right in. Okay, let's slide it over just a little bit. We're going to place many stitches in this space. Let's make another double crochet. So place your finger on the loop on your hook, wrap your yarn around, go through the space, drop a loop, go through 2, and go through 2. That completes our 3 double crochets, or it's going to be known as our granny. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to slide this over because we're going to be placing 3 more double crochets or 1 granny in this space. So place your finger on the loop, yarn over, go through the space, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through the last 2 loops on the hook. Let's do this 2 more times in the same space. Okay, I didn't explain it to you. Did you get it right? Yarn over, go through the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, now if you look at what we have here, we actually have 6 double crochets in this one space with a chain 1 in between the between the 2 sets of 3 double crochet, or our 2 grannies. Okay, moving on to our next, we're going to chain 1. Now as you go across, you remember that chain 1 you did between the clusters? Well, that creates another space, and we're going to place the same thing we did here. So this begins our repeat. We'll place 1 double crochet in there to get it started. Okay, so let's complete our granny. We're going to place 2 more double crochets in that same space. Chain 1. Now let's slide our work over. We still have room to add 3 more. Here's 1. Here's 2. And here's 3. Okay, and then chain 1. And this is what we have so far. I'm going to show you one more time because we've completed this first repeat. Now we're going on to our second repeat. You'll notice that at the end of our cluster from the row 1, we do have our chain 1, and you can see the space in between. Let's place our first double crochet in there. Okay, we want to add 2 more for our completed first granny of this space. And slide the work over, chain 1, and we're going to do another set of 3 double crochets for our second granny. And chain 1. Okay, this is what we have so far. So what I would like for you to do is in your next, we have 1, 2, 3 more spaces to go. I would like for you to continue with your repeat and place 2 grannies with a chain 1 in each one of these spaces. After you complete your last granny here, do not chain 1, and I'll show you how to finish this because we're going to change color after this row. So complete there, and I'll meet you there. So how did you do? I hope you didn't struggle. Crochet is supposed to be an enjoyment, not a frustration. But remember that in the beginning, it does take practice and it does take time. And I'm sure that you will pick this up with no problem. We have more double crochets to do in this particular pattern. So at the end, we're going to be changing colors. So I want to finish this color off. You'll remember before I had you do a single crochet. Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to slip stitch into the top of our chain 3 so that way we can go ahead and finish this row. So we're going to go to the center of our chain at the top of the chain 3, draw up a loop, and take that loop and go through the loop that was on our hook. This will be our space for our next row. And then to remind you to leave an 8-inch tail so that way we can weave it in with no problem for our needle. And this is what we have so far. The next thing we will be doing is we will get out our tapestry needle and we will weave in our magic circle's tail. Now you'll notice that as we were doing this, there is a front and a back side to crochet. The front side has where most of the stitches look long and even. When you go to the back, you'll see that you have lots of smaller stitches or smaller loops that are part of the chain stitching to make the pattern the way it is. So here we are on the wrong side. We're going to take our tail, and to thread our needle, I'm going to place it between my 4 fingers. 1, 2, and 1, 2. I'm going to take my needle and come up from the bottom and pinch the yarn so that it's tight against the size of the needle head. Take the folded part of the yarn and work it through the center of the needle into the eye. And then pull it through and have a little tail for your needle, for your yarn to stay on with the needle. Now when this came out, obviously we're going clockwise. So we're going to continue to go around clockwise just one more time. So I'm going to pick up 2 of these clusters into the center where all the stitching at the bottom is. And then I'm going to pull it just a little bit. And I'm going to go through these 2. Sorry about the interruption. I had a SD card fill up. So let's continue on with our weaving. I'm going to keep on going around and go through the center of those stitches. Okay, when you've gotten all the way around, we can tighten it up just a little bit more. And you see how that circle has closed up on us. Let's go back counterclockwise, and we're going to go over that first stitch, and that'll help lock our weaving in place so that we don't backtrack ourselves and lose what we just stuck in. So there's that way. Now I'm going to go clockwise again. I'm going to go over that first stitch and go through a collection of stitches here. Now anytime you have a magic circle, you need to do this. If you don't do it, your magic circle will break and all those stitches that you put in the center will fall apart, and it will be hard to repair for future. You don't want to have tears in that point. So let's move on to our color yellow, and don't forget to cut your yarn, and I'll see you in a second. Now, as before, when we pull up our color, pull out some extra yarn, so that make sure that you have enough so that you can have even tension in your stitches. Okay, so we're going to start with a slip knot. So as before, go ahead and make a long tail, and then we're going to do pretty much the same as we did with our magic circle. We're going to take our yarn and wrap it over our finger. We're going to lift up the one that's on the bottom just a little bit, and then push the other one through, and it will create a loop. And then with your tail, go ahead and tighten onto that working yarn that we have, and then we'll tighten everything up after we place our hook through the loop. And here we're ready to go. On this hexagon that we're doing, we still have spaces that we will be adding our stitches to, just as we did in the row previous. So we're going to start in a corner space, or what I should help you to designate as a corner space. All of these have 2 grannies in each space, so we're going to go in between where we have 2 grannies in one space. We want to pick up that one that has it in the center. We don't want to go where one granny's on one corner, on one space, and another granny's on another space. That's for something different. So we're going to go where we have our 2 clusters, we have the 2 grannies. We want to go straight up where we have that one there. So insert your hook through the center of that space and draw up a loop, and then take that loop and go through the loop that's on your hook, and we're going to tighten it down. Now, to go up to the height we need for our new stitch, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and we're going to slide this guy over, and in this space we're going to place 2 grannies. Now, since you've just completed doing 2 grannies in each space, you pretty much know what to do. Place your finger on the loop, yarn over, draw up a loop, pull through 2, and pull through 2. We have 1 because our chain 3 pretends to be a double crochet. Let's do 1 more, and chain 1. And we're going to do another granny in this space. Now, we are not going to do double grannies around the whole block, so try not to get ahead of me. I'm going to show you what to do next. And chain 1 when you get to the end of that granny. This is now considered a corner. Alright, so our next one will be right here in between our 2 grannies. We are going to place 1 granny or 3 double crochets in this space. So we have 1, 2, and 3. This will help start our shape of our hexagon, and chain 1. Okay, I ran out of yarn, so here I need to pull some more out, and I'll be with you in just a second. Alright, continuing on. Here we are at our 2 grannies in the one space. We're going to place 2 grannies in this space. This will create another corner that we need for the shape of our hexagon. So once you get that first one in there, the rest one the rest of them will be easy to go in. So here we have our 1, and let's place the other 2 for the 1 granny. Chain 1, slide it over, and let's do our 2nd granny in the same space. I'd like to point out to you that we have just completed a repeat. Okay, our first one had the chain 3, so this corner will not be considered as a repeat. Our repeat started after we chained 1. We have 3 in one space, which was in between 2 grannies. We went over and created 2 grannies in the 2 granny space. Okay, so let's go ahead, and this is going to be our 2nd repeat. We're going to place how many in this one right here? We just did 2, so how many are we going to place here? That's right, we're going to place 1 granny, which is 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3, and chain 1. Okay, let's move on to our next one. We see our 2 grannies there, and we're going to go into the center, and it's a corner, so we're going to place 2 grannies in there. There's 1, 2, 3. That's our first granny. Chain 1, and let's do our 2nd granny. Whoops. Sometimes that happens where you drop your stitch. It's okay, just go back and we'll start our stitch again. There's 1, 2, and 3, and chain 1. Alright, this is how far I have gotten on mine. I would like for you to continue your repeat of 1 granny, chain 1, and then do the corner granny, which is 2 in one space, and chain 1 in between the 2, and then chain 1. When you get over here to your last space, stop there, do not chain 1. If you have any problems, you can always go back and review the video again, but I think that you can handle this. So go ahead and go around, and I'll meet you at your last granny. Do not chain 1. So does your hexagon look like this, or does it look like this? If it does, it's okay. Go ahead and we can smooth it out. Let me remove my hook, and where you have the 1 at, pull it out at each place. Sometimes you'll find in crochet that sometimes you have to work at making things just right so that everything will fit into place. And there we go, it will lay flat. Okay, ready to move on to the next row? Let's do it. So instead of chain 1, we're going to do a single crochet. So on our chains we have complete loops right here. So count up 1, 2, 3. This is that chain 3 when we went up and pretended it was a double crochet. We're going to get to the top of that chain, and then we're going to pick up 2 loops. The reason why I suggest picking up 2 loops is because if you only pick up 1, sometimes it has a tendency to stretch, and it will distort and not put your stitch in the place that you want it to be. So draw up a loop, and now we're going to go ahead and take our yarn over and go through both loops on the hook, and this will give us a single crochet, which is about the same size as a chain 1. Okay, let's move up. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now in this chain space, or in this space where we created our single crochet as our crossover, we're going to place 2 more double crochets, and this will be our first granny of this row. And as you can see, my skein has followed me because I didn't pull my yarn out. So go ahead and chain 1, and I am going to pull some more yarn out. So on this row, we're kind of going to increase without even realizing it. When we placed this one right here, that left an opening for both sides, which allowed it to be an increase. So we have here our granny of 2 for our corner. We're going to keep those as 2, so we chained 1, and in this space we're going to place 2 grannies. So 3 double crochets per set in this space. And chain 1. Slide it over. And here. Now I want to point out to you, if you have been watching some of the other videos that I've created for this granny series in tutorials, you'll notice that sometimes I'll chain 1, chain 2, chain 4. Each one of them is designed for the shape that's needed for that particular granny. And in this particular granny, we just need a chain 1. So after I completed my 2 grannies for my corner to give me the hexagon shape, we're going to chain 1, and here is our 1 from our previous row. If you notice, we have a space on either side. That's going to cause for our 1 that we've had already plus an increase. So let's place 3 in this space, double crochets, or 1 granny. Okay, 3 double crochets, now chain 1. Into our next space, 3 double crochets. If you notice, we've already begun our repeat. Our repeat started at the corner. Chain 1. Okay, so our repeat is here at this corner, plus 2 single grannies that go in between the corners. Okay, so our next one will be in this corner space right here. We're going to place 2 grannies. A lot of times when you do grannies, if you have 2 in the corner, you can pretty much follow them up. And so as this one gives us this shape for our hexagon, you can see how it's given us that 6-sided shape. Okay, so continue on, and I'll meet you back here. Do not chain 1. I have to laugh. Does your hexagon look like this? It'll be fine. Go ahead and smooth it out and take your ends and pull. In a process it's called blocking, is where you would get your crochet wet and you would stretch it and it would all lay flat so that everything would ease into its place. Okay, so don't be frustrated with it. This is part of crochet. Sometimes you have to work with what you got to make it so that it looks like it's supposed to. So let's complete this row. We are not going to chain. We're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. We have one more color to go, and then we will be complete with our hexagon. And in this hexagon, you can also make it larger to make it for a baby blanket or a blanket of some sort that where you can change colors and have a lot of fun with it. I'm showing you the changing of colors so that if you choose to change colors in the future to make this, you can. Also, I plan on in the future making projects from these grannies, so this is like an introduction to the whole thing. So let's move on to the green, and I'll see you then. Okay, moving on. Now I will point out we still do have some tails. We'll weave those in after we put our green on. So with a tail, let's go ahead and place a slip knot on our hook. So yarn over, you can go underneath, pull up a loop with the hook, tighten it down, and then tighten it to where it fits the size of our hook. And don't forget, don't be like me and leave it there. Oh, look, what do I got? Do I got a snag? Nope, I got lucky on that one. Let me pull out some yarn and I'll be with you in a second. Alright, let's move on. As before, I prefer to start in the corners, especially when starting a new color. You'll find that in future projects, you notice how we started in a corner here, and when you go up a row, you're going to be going over and over and over, so it's always best to start in a corner. So insert your hook in between the two grannies in the corner section of the hexagon, pull up a loop, and then take that loop and go through the loop that's on your hook. Chain 3. I'm sure by now you've picked up many techniques and ways of doing this, Granny, and I hope you're proud of yourself because you've done very well. Yarn over through that space. We're going to do our double crochet. Here's 1 and here's 2. Chain 1. In our same space, we're going to do our second granny. There's 1, 2, 3 double crochets, chain 1. Now you'll notice here we have 3 spaces now. The first time we had only 1. The second row we had 2. Well, this row we're going to have 3. This is part of the increase and building on our granny block. So we've chained 1. Now in this space we're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 1. And in our next space, mine just happens to have my tail. I'm going to push it to the side, and in this space I'm going to add my 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain 1. And in my next space, 3 double crochets. This completes our first repeat. So if the pattern says you have to do this and repeat it 5 times, you'll know why. We're here at our corner, and in our corner we place how many? That's right, we place 2 grannies. So we chained 1 already, we got 1, and now we're 2, 3, chain 1, slide it over, and 3 more double crochets in this one space. and chain 1. Okay? So let me get all the tails out of the way. Oops, I hit my camera, sorry about that. Now as you see, we have this one side, and then we're going to have the 5 other sides. Continue on around. Even if yours feels like it's rippling, it'll be okay. I'll show you how to fix it at the end of this video. So go all the way around the sides, and I'll meet you right here. After you finish your last granny, do not chain 1. Okay, at the end we're going to place a slip stitch in the top of the chain 3. And you drew up a loop, and you pull that loop right through, and then we're just going to pull it through. Okay, now if yours ended up like mine with a little bit of wrinkling in it, from the center take one side of your hexagon and pull. What this will do is it will help ease those stitches into where they need to be at. I know this isn't something you think you should normally do, but sometimes we have to encourage, because we also have so many stitches in one location. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can go ahead and put this on a piece of cardboard and put some pins in it. After you've stretched it out, spray it with water and let it dry for 2 days. It will not make the colors will not run, because this is 100% acrylic. If you use cotton, you need to be careful that the colors could run. So this completes our tutorial for this hexagon. If you choose to make it bigger into a blanket with all the use that it would get, it would be very warm because of how close these grannies are. Thank you for watching me on this. And oh, one more thing before we go. We need to weave in our ends, and that will complete this block. Normally what I like to do is make sure I go under a corner to place my weavings into, and you would weave it in the same as we did for our magic circle. So until our next video in our Granny series, I hope to see you then. Thank you again for watching, and have a great day.